Hello, everybody. Welcome to Fit.
Now we're live.
Now we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fit to Live Radio. This is episode 10, and we are talking general physical skills.
That's right.
So
What a
we're gonna
landmark.
Look at these generally physical skills. Yeah, it's a big day for us. Really want to celebrate it by doing a podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So, events coming up. We've got Spooky Movie Night. That's this weekend, Saturday at 6 p.m. right here at the gym. Bring some warm clothes, bring a lawn chair, snacks, hang out. It should be fun.
The movie's Hocus Pocus.
Cool.
The wonderful Disney movie.
Is it Disney?
I think it's Disney. It's always on Disney, or maybe it's on ABC. I don't know.
You know what? It's family friendly.
It's family friendly, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And then we have the trail cleanup on November 8th. We're going to meet at the gym at 1 p.m. And then we're going to JC Park, which is in Cutlerville. The gym.
So, what, 10 minutes from here?
Yeah, not far at all.
Nice.
By Kalamazoo and 52nd.
Oh, you're
the
resident
closest
there now, aren't you?
I am a resident in, I think it's technically like Gaines Township. Gaines.
Yeah.
I think that was an accident.
No, nothing is.
No,
Nothing ever is.
Nothing ever is. And then in other news, our kettlebell course has been postponed to next week, just 1 week. There are spots still available, so if you want to sign up, do it. And then the costume workout at Friction is Halloween, which is the 31st, that Saturday.
Yeah,
So a couple weeks.
Wear a costume that is workout friendly.
Bring a friend.
Bring a friend, yeah.
Yeah. They also have to wear a costume.
Yeah. We will. We won't give out candy.
No.
We'll throw it at you. Tell you to work out faster.
If you catch it, if you have the coordination and accuracy to catch it.
Yeah. So more about that. So the general physical skills, we're going to dig into this. So first the list at the top, not in any particular order. It's just how we quizzed ourselves.
Yeah.
Speed was the first one. Then power, strength, stamina, endurance, flexibility, agility, coordination, balance, and accuracy. So we'll maybe dig into some of the more, well, that kind of sounds like the same thing.
Yeah.
And maybe some common questions we get from that list. And I'm going to jump a little bit out of order, but I want to tackle the relationship. No, sorry. Let me correct that. What's the difference between stamina and endurance, Mike?
So with stamina and endurance, it does sound the same, and people kind of use it interchangeably. How we see it, endurance would be more of like a long sustained effort at a low intensity. So in the strength and conditioning world, it's called LSD, which is long, slow distances. Not to be confused with anything else.
It's called an illegal substance.
It's called an
we
illegal
don't
substance.
do that here.
We don't do LSD here. We only do high intensity. And then stamina, on the other hand, is repeated efforts maintaining a specific intensity, usually of the higher intensity sort. So think of it like a 5K run for endurance versus like 50, 100 meter sprints.
Okay.
For stamina.
No, but does that, I mean, that kind of looks like speed.
Or 1K runs.
I think, yeah, you're still kind of looking at maybe a longer effort, but I guess it doesn't, when I originally see stamina, my mind doesn't directly go towards cardiovascular efforts.
Yeah, it can be.
I think endurance wise, I
ways.
think like running,
Yeah.
Rowing, biking, swimming, things like that, where
Yeah.
like you can do it for a very long period of time without stopping. You're just, if you're gonna go that long distance, you're not going all out. It's not balls to the wall.
Yeah, no. Definitely
But originally, when I hear the word stamina, I think of actually like body weight movements. I think like
Sure.
Doing a large set of like push-ups or
Yeah.
sit-ups or air squats or
Yeah.
a plank where it's a sustained effort and it's maybe a degree higher.
Yeah.
than
It's almost
endurance.
like body weight lactate threshold.
Yeah, which I think, you can still achieve that in monostructural movements or cardio movements, but it's just at a higher intensity level.
Right.
And then of course, like weightlifting is a a great way to kind of get into that
Yeah. So,
painful part of exercise.
oh yeah. One of the workouts we did last week, well, two of them actually, it was every 30 seconds you do like a snatch at 60% and then one chest to bar
Yeah.
for 60 rounds.
Yeah.
It's like that can be, in my eyes, considered stamina.
I would say
Right?
it's far more stamina than it is
Endurance. Yeah. Because it's just such like stop and go
Yeah.
style workout.
That's a great workout for stamina would be 150 wall balls.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way to look at that.
Yeah.
Or any, maybe anything that, even careful with it, but like throwing 100 reps on any movement might be a really good approach for stamina.
Yeah. I mean, I
It's not
sometimes
high
throw that into Victory Kid,
rep. Yeah.
where it's like random Tuesdays and Thursdays, like 100 jump squats, and that's it. Like it's 2 to 3 minutes, but it's a nasty 2 to 3 minutes. Like your
Right.
legs, you're gonna walk out of here
Yeah.
kind of shaky.
It's maybe uncomfortable.
Yeah, definitely.
So before we move into some other skills, we're going to cover them all today, folks. Why might somebody want to incorporate both of these attributes to their training?
I think it's something we'll probably touch on at the end, but like generalistic training versus like specialist training.
Right.
Like, am I training just to run long distances, or do I want to have a higher intensity? And it's that variability in workouts that'll make you more of a generalist than a specialist.
Yeah.
And in my eyes, it's better to be a generalist
Yeah.
because there's no holes to be plugged
Yeah. More on that later.
in certain situations.
I think I'm getting ahead of myself. I apologize. All right.
That's okay.
So we're gonna go back through these, but that's kind of looking at stamina and endurance. And then let's briefly talk about flexibility, because I think this is a great one, because it's one of the general physical skills, but it's often confused with mobility.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
So flexibility is more passive and mobility is more active. So for example, that would be like, can you do a standing or seated toe touch and just like hold that position, versus mobility would be like an air squat. Can you get to a comfortable like low depth squat with a flat back, with good hip position, good ankle position, good knee position out where you're engaging the glutes, keeping everything where it should be. And that's the difference. Granted, like you could hold an air squat, like a squat hold, and that would be considered flexibility because you're just like passively in a squat. But like repeatedly doing air squats, you have the mobility for like 50 reps to maintain neutral spine, knees out.
So I guess another way to think about it is like flexibility is being able to achieve a range of motion. Like let's say like an overhead position, like I can get here, but mobility is being able to control it.
Yeah.
With some degree of strength.
Yeah.
So it's like, I can do this, get overhead, and my core is engaged, my back is still flat and neutral. But if I hold a 5-pound object, I'm like, I can't stay there and I can't move within that distance.
Yeah.
So
mobility would be poor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of a good thing to look at. But generally, if we look generally talking about general physical skills, if we talk about general flexibility, it's more about being able to achieve a range of motion in some common positions that you might see. The overhead we just talked about, the squat, the hip hinge, which would be like your gym class, presidential fitness test, toe touch, and amongst other things. You can get more specific, but really want to see that flexibility through your major joints, hips, shoulders. We want to see general flexion and extension of the spine, and then you can kind of cascade into knees, elbows, ankles, hands, wrists, toes, fingers.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
all that's important, but I think when you initially look at flexibility, you really want to see it in the hip and shoulder, and more so the hip than the shoulder.
Yeah. If you can't hinge very well, you're not going to be as...
So living your best life.
Yeah. You're not going to be living your best life. I didn't want to say like you're not going to be as good as an athlete as you want to be, because like we're not all like world-class athletes. Like we just want to live a better life. Most of us. Yeah.
What do you
Come on,
mean?
man.
It's my first time hearing this. Yeah, I think there's a much bigger impact for everyone if you're lacking flexibility.
Yeah.
Right. If you don't have that, like
Yeah. It's pretty apparent.
Yeah. Like if you have a hard time getting down to tie your shoe, then that's something that you should probably work on a little bit more than being able to lift a ton of weight or being able to run forever.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Yeah.
Let's dig into the next one. So we're gonna dig into some of these maybe higher output skills and talk about the relationship between strength, power, and speed. I think speed's apparent. It's being able to move very fast, either your body or an object.
Yeah.
And then when we talk about strength, it's about moving a heavy object.
An external load.
Something attached to your body, or something that your body's working against. And then power is a combination of that speed and that strength. So now it's moving that object fast.
With velocity.
Yes. So, velocity. So, was it mass times acceleration?
Force equals mass times acceleration. Yeah.
Good. So, probably a really good example of this is if you took your vehicle and brought it to a parking lot that was flat, or maybe it had a slight incline, put it in neutral, got out, walked behind it, and started pushing it. It's a very heavy object, thousands of pounds. You wouldn't be able to move it very fast, but gosh darn it, you can move it, and that is an expression of strength.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you took a sled, not a car, a smaller object, and a sled that you wouldn't use for going down a hill.
Like a
workout
prowler
sled. Put it in the same parking lot, and maybe it's a couple 100 pounds. Put the bars on there, the vertical bars, put your hands on it, hinge down, bent the legs and hips, and ran as fast as you could. That would be an example of power, removing a heavy object very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe a third way to look at speed is if you remove the sled and you just ran as fast as you possibly could for 100 feet. So there's some examples of that. So what does that look like in your training, and are you addressing all those?
Yes. So, I mean, this brings me to Victory Kid, and when programming, I'm sure you do this for powerlifting as well, but when programming, I'm trying to get all three of these meshed together. And Olympic weightlifting does a great job of naturally bringing all three of these together.
Mm-hmm.
And so does powerlifting, but you can, do the snatch, do the clean and jerk. You can do those two movements and get better at strength, speed, and power, but you can also kind of strip that down and work on each one.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about.
So strength, that could be a snatch pull, only to your shin and then back down.
Yeah.
That's just strength.
Yep.
Just pulling it up about 3 inches, come back down. And you can load that up as heavy as you want to go. And then speed, you could do a tall snatch, like a snatch balance, really light and really fast. And then you could do power.
You get a snatch or clean.
Just do the lift.
The traditional lift. That's totally what I thought was Olympic lifting first, because it's very, when you look at the training, I thought of a front rack hold, whether you're taking 120% of your best front squat and holding it there and just being able to hold that position is a lot of strength. Or even when somebody catches a really heavy clean and you can tell it's heavy because they're not standing up super fast, but they're moving the weight. That's a great view of that. But then when you see an athlete move under a snatch lightning fast speed, where you saw them at the top of the pole and then all of a sudden they're in the bottom. That's speed.
Strength off the ground, speed, or kind of speed to the middle, and then power, kind of all encompassing.
I think you can kind of look at most other movements, and it's just I think of Olympic weightlifting, awesome example. When we look at powerlifting, we talk about a good lift in a powerlifting movement, especially in competition. You want to see a certain speed on that bar, and the reason for is actually safer. A movement done a little bit faster that kind of has the ideal rate. Like if I'm bench pressing, it's like this. It's a lot of stress on the joint. But if you're hitting a bench and it's just,
right off,
half a second to complete the distance,
yeah,
that's actually really healthy for the joint. It's not putting as much stress on it. Versus if you're going through a grinder and that would be the label. Like that's a great example of strength, but it's lacking power and speed. So we often do a plus set in powerlifting, like 5-3-1, and we cue the athletes to stop when you start to lose speed.
Yeah.
So if somebody's going through a plus set of deadlifts and they're on their fifth set or the fifth rep, and it's really fast, just as fast as the first one. They go into rep 6 and things start to slow down. Don't do a set of lift. Just stop. It's good.
Yeah.
Or
you've got what you needed.
Stop there and you get into looking at like West Side barbell. They start to work on general physical skills with all the banded and chain work. They have speed days.
Yeah, those very low resistance type deals.
Yeah, and it's just learning how to move weight really fast, so that when you add more weight to the same movement, you know how to move it fast. You're just adding extra load, and then you get power.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, you can even dig into like gymnastic movements doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Max rep pull-ups or push-ups. You get to see speed at the start. It kind of transitions into power, and then when they start to fatigue, you can see strength. So it's another awesome example of what that looks like. It's more about looking at rate.
Yeah, and
rate and load.
It's not like we're trying to train each of these 10 things like individually. Yeah, you probably can, but a majority of the movements that we do, like muscle ups, pull ups, snatch, clean and jerk, bench, squat, deadlift, shoulder press, whatever, it's probably looking at 3 or 4 of these at a time.
Yeah.
And depending on like time modalities or task oriented workouts, you might hit like 6 or 7 of them.
Absolutely. I think I think the big thing, we'll kind of look at this more at the end of the podcast, but it's saying like, does your program cover all these? Does it encompass it? And the question you really want to ask yourself and think about is, look at a workout that you've done in the past week and try to figure out or argue or debate, did I train this physical skill? And if not, which one did I miss? And then maybe look at that same week and say, well, did I train agility? Did I train accuracy? And having some ideas or some idea of what that is exactly or roughly will kind of tell you if you have a very balanced program.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you want to get out of this, and we'll dig into that some more. But we've covered flexibility, we've covered stamina, endurance, strength and power and speed. We've covered those. So let's talk about agility. We mentioned that just now.
Yeah.
So how we and this I think kind of ties into speed a little bit as well. But how would you define agility, Mike? Or what are we looking at here?
I immediately think of like being light-footed.
Okay.
So like, can I? If I saw like a floor full of Legos and there were like 5 open spots to get to like the corner of the room to the door, like
so
can I like jump from spot to spot quickly to like get to the door?
This dude's so ready for dad life.
Oh, so ready. Yeah. Split your Legos, boy. See what happens.
Taking a barrel of Legos in the gym, just throwing it across the floor, and then like sprinting through.
Yeah, agility.
And handstand walking through.
Yeah, but that's like light-footedness. Like, can you move your feet quickly and like not heavy foot your way through, like clomping your feet through like an agility ladder?
Oh, it's so great talking about these because like I start to think about like balance, coordination start to tie in, and then like you're also talking about speed, so there's like this time factor. I think when most people think about agility and training, they go like, oh, agility ladders, and they think about like dot drills and cone drills, and all these are really good, but I think when you start to mix in other obstacles, like I think about like an obstacle course is like great, like you see factors of agility in there, and it goes into that body control, it goes into speed, and it goes into controlling your body. And I think when I think about agility, I love the term anchor points, because if you're walking, running, or moving as a bipedal animal, or humans, right? That's just your feet. That's where you're attached to the ground, or you're attached to something. But if we're crawling and doing like a bear crawl, like, okay, now my quadruped animal, and then being able to control all four limbs, and then if you're up on your hands, okay, we've seen some of that with CrossFit. We get to see agility in a different fashion. But I also think about when you're on a pull-up bar, there's some agility to that, or when you're going through monkey bars, like that's just a different form of agility. So maybe if we kind of think about it as like, how are you attached to something, and then how do you move through space quickly and accurately while avoiding objects or moving across objects. So like, it gets more fun.
I mean, we're, like you said, we're meant to be bipedal, and we may be less agile on 4 anchor points, but something like, I don't know, like a leopard or like
a dolphin.
Yeah,
of
course.
Agile in water, right? That's a thing.
Does it have any anchor points? It's fins, I guess, and flippers.
It's just floating around.
3 anchor points, technically?
I don't know, but its whole body's attached to water. So
that's true.
Or what about a bird? So maybe it's more or less
existential
anchor points, and more it's like moving through space and avoiding objects, or getting from point A to point B.
Points of locomotion.
Sorry, I just watched that Office episode last night. Michelle was so excited when it started out. Parkour!
I mean, that's agility, coordination, balance, and accuracy all in one.
Okay, so let's dig into coordination. So, moving your body through space
safely.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. What's the point of training something if you're training recklessly?
Yeah, like I can try to be agile, but if I'm falling every time I jump, that's not very agile, nor is it safe or coordinated.
Yeah, if you go into weightlifting movements, this is where we would talk more about like technique. Like, Tanner, one of the members in the powerlifting club, he actually put a post out on Friction's page about his technical development on the deadlift. And so if you swipe to the right, you can see swipe right and notice that Tanner has his first video, and I think he's deadlifting like 225, and we worked on the deadlift last night, and he was deadlifting maybe like 275, but with much better mechanics. And it's things like that with being coached and training that maybe don't get as much praise. A lot of people just look at like weight, or speed, or time, or like pounds lost, muscle gain, things like that. But like just better movement. So like the deadlift is a great one, but I think when you look at Olympic weightlifting, like that's half the battle, is getting the coordination, the proper mechanics, and it's interesting because it's not just about how your body's moving, how the bar's moving. A lot of it's like, do I have tension in the right points? Do I have my joints aligned properly? That's kind of something you mentioned earlier. So coordination has so many factors to that.
How do you organize your joints to work synergistically?
Whoa. Tell me more.
I mean, like in weightlifting, and it's in powerlifting too, but like a technical max.
Like that's a great term.
How heavy can you lift by making it look good versus like grinding it out?
Yeah, I think it's always fun when an athlete hits a PR, but they're not like there's just a look of disgust after they complete it. And that's a great mindset for an athlete, because, or just that people in general, like, I did this, but it wasn't to my standards. It wasn't done well. And my initial thing is like, hey, it's okay. It's your first time doing that lift. Your next goal with whatever technique we're working on isn't to lift heavier than that. It's to come back and do that again, but make it look better. And just kind of get more efficiency at that weight. And then that's the game of weightlifting, right? It's
absolutely.
Like get more efficient at a certain weight, and that gives you some room to add weight to the bar. And then you'll have a fault. So some faults are good, but like part of coordination is experiencing bad movement to improve that movement.
I was actually talking to one of our athletes about that Or it's like that's kind of weightlifting in a nutshell, where it's like, let's say for easy numbers sake, I can snatch 100 pounds. If I can move 70 pounds really well, awesome. If I can get 80 pounds to move really well, I'm probably getting stronger. So now I can snatch, if I test it and max out, I can snatch 110. And now I want to move 85 pounds easier and 90 pounds better, and then I can retest again and get 120.
Yep.
And this kind of like shifting of numbers, and it just keeps going up forever and ever and ever.
Yep. And I think if you go like, well, I can lift 100 pounds, but it doesn't look good.
Yeah.
Like that's the same for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like that was like the stars aligned, and like I felt really good that day, and I warmed up great. I ate well and slept well. But most of us are, it might look pretty good.
Yeah.
But most of us look really good at like our, 80-85%.
Yeah.
And there's some degree of fault at 90 plus.
Yeah. How well are you moving sub-maximally?
It's usually why you see most of your percentage work around 75-85%.
Yeah.
That's your area where it's heavy enough to challenge the nervous system, but not so heavy where you can't correct faults.
Yeah, you can still technically improve.
Yeah.
And make corrections.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, how do we measure each one of these?
Oh man,
Which is a big question.
A lot of things to go through there. And I don't know if we've covered accuracy.
Oh, accuracy. That's right.
That'll be our last one, and then we'll kind of dig into some of those. So accuracy. What is it?
Man. There's a scientific term or a comparison between like accuracy and precision.
Yep.
So correct me if I'm wrong, because I always tend to get them backwards, but accuracy is like repeated versus precision is just once, or is it backwards?
Backwards.
So accuracy is once, precision is repeated over and over.
So accuracy is aiming for a specific spot. So let's say darts. Like you immediately think accuracy, like I'm trying to hit bullseye. So you aim for bullseye, you hit bullseye.
Yeah.
That's one. But let's say if you look at precision, I'm aiming for bullseye, but I hit a cluster, and one of them's bullseye, but out of the 10, the other 9 are like within a half inch. Like that's pretty precise.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
But precision isn't always accuracy, because you could be aiming for bullseye and hit the outer ring of 7, and 7 out of your 10 throws or 7 out of your 10 darts are there, and then you have like a couple outliers.
Yeah.
You're really precise there, but you're not accurate. So immediately when I think of training, I'm like, a wall ball, like you have to be accurate to hit the target.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can look at accuracy on bar path when you're doing a snatch, or accuracy on contact point for a bench press.
Yeah, where your feet land in a snatch or clean and jerk.
Yep, and so it's just it kind of ties into coordination, where it's body placement or external object placement, putting your body over the object where you want it to go. So it kind of brings that together.
Yeah.
So when you think about training, you could go, look at the endurance world and say running. Well, having the proper foot strike, where I have a vertical shin, and it's not a really heavy heel contact or really heavy toe contact. It's kind of right in the middle, get that sweet spot on the contact. Or it's having an accurate arm action when you're swimming. We're going to talk about snatches. Doing a pull-up, whether it's strict or kipping and getting your chin over the bar to qualify that distance, but not going too much or too little, right? So it's really, I think, actually accuracy. We're really talking about moving well and hitting proper standards, not just to cover distance, but also to improve performance and probably have better health with our body.
Yeah,
right? It's just moving well versus a lack of accuracy would be, having a rounded back and still being able to get your hips extended, but it's not the accurate spine position.
You're moving all cattywampus.
Yeah, you're moving like shit. Just say it.
Just say it.
It's awful. So I think we got a fairly decent idea of what we're looking at for these skills. So We've gone through the list, so maybe a little bigger picture question. How does your training program develop these attributes?
Yeah.
A ton of examples. My initial thought with that is, kind of look at a single day and ask yourself, okay, can I effectively argue that I am developing each one of these?
Mm-hmm.
What am I missing? And then look at a week and say, well,
Yeah.
am I
missing
getting this?
anything?
Am I getting this anywhere else in the week?
Yeah.
If not, I think the next question is like, are you biasing one of these?
Yeah.
And what does that mean?
So are you spending too much time like on the barbell
Yeah.
versus like running or gymnastics work or whatever else? Are you only developing speed, power, and strength?
Yeah. Do you not work on flexibility enough?
Yeah.
And then if that's the case, and I think not instinctively, but initially everybody's going to think, well, I work on this quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Probably because you like it. But how does your bias hinder your performance long term?
Mm-hmm.
So I often talk to the individuals in the powerlifting club, and I'll push them other ways sometimes. Like if we are just working on powerlifting movements, but we're not working on our general endurance or our general stamina, that's going to really impact your ability to lift heavy weight.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about maybe a hybrid of strength and endurance, but it'd be strength endurance.
Yeah.
Where it's being able to lift heavy weights for several repetitions for a long period of time.
Yeah.
So if you're a really strong athlete and you deadlift 500 pounds, but it's going to take you 12 sets to get there,
mm-hmm.
but you're tuckered out and gassed out by set 8, like you never get to express your maximal strength,
Yeah.
or maximal power rather, because you don't have the strength endurance for it.
Yeah, you couldn't handle getting up there.
Right.
Again.
And then on the flip side, there's this other hybrid called endurance strength. It was just fun, right?
Yeah,
and
it's there.
This one popped into my head, but I mean, endurance strength is talking about an endurance athlete that is on the last mile of, let's say, a 10K, and they don't have the strength in their legs anymore, and they just kind of shit the bed there.
Yeah,
where like their legs just fizzle out, and it's not that their heart and can't keep going, it's that their legs aren't able to sustain that amount of strength for that period of time.
Cardio's good, body's not good.
Right. So their legs aren't strong enough. So this is where we kind of talk to people about cross training, mm-hmm. or working on the other elements of this. We were working on a shoulder press in powerlifting. So it's taking a barbell with no movement from the legs, just static tension of legs and core, and pressing it from the shoulder to overhead. And a couple of the guys are pressing 185, 190, which is pretty awesome.
Huge, yeah.
But I saw them hit some of their lifts, and I was like, hey, this is something that's going to help you. So I directed them over to a pull-up bar, and I said, I want you to arch your back, look up, and keep that arch position and tension in your upper back, and try to do a strict pull-up, getting your chest to the bar. And the idea was that if we could develop their gymnastic strength to pull, that when they set up for the bar, they could draw some tension in their upper back and have more speed out of the bottom.
Yeah.
So it's just looking at maybe one specific area and understanding how the other general physical skills support that one.
Yeah.
And if I'm trying to maximize that, what's going to be my limiting factor? So if we talk about maybe mobility is a great one.
Yeah.
If I want an Olympic lift, but I can't get to the bottom of an air squat with a flat back, it's going to be really hard for me to do a snatch effectively.
Yeah.
Because it means you're going to pull it and you're going to get spit right out when you try to catch the weight.
Yeah, you're not going to go anywhere with it. That's your limiting factor. Like, Olympic weightlifting is great to handle, like, I would say 8 out of 10 of these physical skills, and that's why it's such a useful training methodology, I guess, is because you can train so many of these at one time. But if one thing is missing, it's going to be kind of hard to advance.
Yeah.
Right.
I think I see Olympic weightlifters often doing pool work.
Yeah.
They're getting in the pool on their off days from weightlifting, because one of the missing skills for Olympic weightlifting is endurance.
Yeah, I would say.
And I think if you were to, take any athlete, any sport, any form of exercising, and you could throw a general physical preparedness program or a GPP program underneath it, and that's going to maximize the amount of power that you're going to be able to stack on top of it.
Yeah.
And
I was doing a meet once and somebody had missed, and they had to follow themselves. Like, instead of waiting for 2 or 3 other people to go, they had to follow themselves, and like the dude was tired, and the coach was like, "This is why we do on the minute work."
yeah.
And like, if you got to follow yourself, you get 2 minutes.
Yep.
And then you got to go again. Like, if it's, your 3rd out of 3 lifts, and this is potentially like max out.
Yep.
So it's really heavy, and you got to do it again.
Yeah.
Like, you got to be in shape to do that.
Yeah. So, and that'd be conditioning work for any kind of barbell strength athlete.
Yeah.
Is, every 60 seconds or on the minute, you do a snatch. You get, 55 seconds to kind of chill out, and then you repeat that maybe for 10 minutes at not a crazy percentage, maybe 70 to 75, but to get fitter there, you do one of 2 things. You can either do more rounds, increase your volume, or you can reduce that rest to 45 seconds, 30 seconds. But if you go any shorter than that, you're really looking at a CrossFit workout called Isabella or Grace.
So potentially.
But I mean, the idea is the same there. And you could look at, I was talking to Coach Kevin not too long ago about somebody that was trying to break, I think it was the marathon record for running.
It's like 2 hours, isn't it?
Yeah.
A little less than 2 hours?
Yeah, so what they did to get the time down is they did 400-meter repeats. So working on speed, right? To get a better time, you have to run faster.
Yeah.
But they're doing 400-meter repeats with 30 seconds of rest in between, and I think they were doing it at like a minute every 400.
Oh my god.
So they were
with 30 seconds of rest?
Yeah. And then and I don't remember the exact number of 400-meter repeats they did, but it was insane. It was definitely past the teens, right? Because I mean, like, think about the distance, right? Like, you need to run a lot of 400 meters to get close to a marathon distance.
Yeah, what is that?
But it was really about sustaining that speed, over time. Yeah. Right. And so, I have this speed that I'm doing, the speed training that I'm doing, but it's, again, speed endurance at that point, right?
I think it's like 104. It's 26 miles, right?
That's insane.
400 times 4 is a mile.
Yeah.
That's crazy. 400.
I mean, you can do the math, right? So, like, okay, how much?
I'm probably way off on
what's that. That doesn't matter. I mean, the concept's the same, right? But if you said, like, I need my goal is a 2-hour marathon time, and I'm just going to divide those seconds up into 400s.
Yeah.
What do I need to run that 400 in? How fast you need to be, and then just get good at repeating it and reduce the rest.
Yeah.
Much like what we talked about doing with on the minute work with barbell training.
Absolutely.
So a lot of different ways to approach that, but I think it's, we look at long-term training, making sure that what you're doing isn't limiting your performance long-term. It's kind of looking at your 10 general physical skills and saying, what am I missing? What can I work on? How do these mesh together to kind of give me this big approach towards my goal? And I think too, when you look at health and you look at some bigger picture stuff, health is a big thing. Like, if you are biasing an aspect of your training, you are looking at probably having some impact on your health. So I mean, like, if you're training heavy but you're not utilizing flexibility training, you're reducing the range of motion, which puts more stress on your joints if you're not squatting low enough.
Yeah, like West Side versus the World, that documentary, like, oh man, Louis messed up.
Dude, he's
not gonna lie, like, physically he's messed up. Mentally, he's got the engine for it, but physically, like, both his knees are shot, his back is shot.
The mind is stronger than the body.
So he didn't. I would like to believe that he didn't train all 10 of these. I could be wrong, but
you know,
I think it shows. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you can say it with any sport too.
yeah,
Like, if you train one side of the spectrum versus
Right.
the other, not all of them, eventually you're going to break down.
yeah. If you get into an endurance training, but you're not supporting the joints with strength and
Yeah.
flexibility work and coordination work, so that, I mean, if you're not doing coordination,
Yeah.
agility work with long distance running, then eventually when you fatigue, you're going to have poor placement, which puts your hips, knees, and ankles in poor position. And there's a million examples of that, but I think that's kind of the thing that we look at is like, how does your general training with these skills impact your long-term performance and health?
Yeah.
And I think those go hand in hand.
Yeah. If you're doing marathons every other weekend, but you're heel striking,
Yeah.
like,
It's like some agility and balance work could go into this. I don't even think, did we dig into balance?
not really, but it can be tied into coordination. Like,
Yeah.
we can talk about any other lift, but I think balance is pretty straightforward if you're
Be some research for you
in
guys
the
at
right
home.
position. Yeah.
So let's kind of talk about something we jumped into earlier,
Yeah.
preemptively, being a generalist versus being a specialist. I spelled infant. Okay.
Infinite. Now I see.
Yeah, infant. So really, I think when you look at being a specialist, like only Olympic weightlift,
Yeah.
you're going to kind of pigeonhole yourself into
Yeah.
being really good at some things, but really bad at some other things. And I think the same thing would go if you looked at swimming
Yeah.
or running or, you name it. It's okay to have that sport or have that thing that you really focus on, but part of your training needs to shore up the rest of these general physical skills to make sure that you do have a balanced overall training plan because really that at some point it is going to impact your health.
Yeah.
And I think when any of us think about exercising, it's about health and it's about this longevity approach. And, I think it's really easy for a lot of people to say, I'm going to get into running and I'm just going to run.
Yeah.
That's great. But, you don't just want to run because, like we mentioned earlier, if you're just running, you're not going through full ranges of motion. You're going to lack strength to support the joints
Yeah.
for those long efforts. And then you get into like agility, coordination, and balance and all these things.
Yeah. So, like, I always try to think of real life examples. So, like, if I'm getting into running and I run 10 miles a day, I'm probably in really good shape. But if I have to move,
Yeah.
like I just did this weekend, like, if you have to move and you gotta like pick up couches and pick up heavy boxes,
Yep.
it's like, man, I'm gonna feel like crap on Monday.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna be round back deadlifting boxes and couches all
Yeah.
weekend, and I just run and I'm in good shape. Doesn't really do me any good.
Really help.
Not that I'm slamming any runners or anything, but like,
No. It's
life tends to punish the specialist, as
There
I've
you
heard
go.
before.
Yeah. So the maybe a very similar example, but one of my clients, she Joni, she took on this task of renovating some vacation homes, and she had learned weightlifting and powerlifting movements here, and how to keep a neutral spine as you're lifting weights, how to brace the core, how to position your knees and your hips and your feet.
Yeah.
And we hadn't talked for a while, and we were talking about her projects, and she's like, I am so glad that I learned how to move weights and do those things correctly, because when I came to taking on these projects, I was picking things up all day, every day, and she's like, I didn't have a single sore joint at all. Like normally it would be like my hips, my
Out for a couple
back, my
days.
knees work, and I need to take more rest. But because she was moving properly, she felt great the entire time. She got more work done, increased her capacity and
Fitness.
And it was just moving better, right? Fitness. So, but I mean, it had a huge impact on how effective those projects were, how she got things done, how she felt.
Yeah.
And, I think, if you're lacking that somewhere, like it comes back to you.
Yeah.
Right. If I'm just lifting weights, like eventually my joints are going to be very unhappy with me if I'm just constantly stressing them and pounding them and grinding through things, just doing strength training, not flexing power or speed or anything else. So
the body's going to tell you.
Yeah, it'll let you know.
So I kind of touched on this earlier. I think I jumped ahead, but measuring these things, these 10 things, there's really no limit to what you can measure it with. Kind of creativity is your own limitation as far as measuring it.
Yeah.
And there are like standardized tests within the strength and conditioning world to like measure flexibility with like a sit and reach test, or measure power with, you could do like a jump pad where you jump off of it and it pumps out some number of like, I don't know, kilowatts, something like that. I don't know, some sort of power measurement.
Yeah.
So, there's different ways to measure them, but there's also like really straightforward ways. And generally we do that with like weights lifted, how you looked when you moved, and how you performed.
Yeah. I think when you start to quantify, like we do it all the time in our fitness class, is you start to quantify almost everything in class to an extent. It's not like, oh, you warmed up at this many rounds, but if you look at the main piece in the workout and you say like, I did, the workout's 4 rounds of a 400-meter run, it's 20 push-ups, and then it's 5 front squats at 185, and then there's a minute rest in there. And I want to see how much time it takes you to do each of those rounds individually. Then we can say we're measuring speed on the run, stamina on the repeated efforts. We're looking at stamina in the push-up. We're looking at some power in the front squat.
Yeah, some strength in the front squat.
Yep, and maybe speed in the power clean to get the bar from the ground to the shoulder, the squat.
Accuracy in running.
So we look at all those things. We say, hey, it's measuring these physical skills. And let's go ahead and record those times each round, so that if you get the opportunity to repeat that workout, or if you spend some time training and you've gotten fitter but you're really not sure what that looks like because you've measured it, go ahead and do that workout again and back up how you're feeling and do better. And if it took you 3 minutes to do each round and you're very consistent, had good stamina, endurance, I think maybe stamina would be individual rounds, but endurance would be sustaining those times, right? So since we're defining things, but you could, say I got 3 minutes the first time through, and each one of those on average, I came back through 3 months later and I took the average down 20 seconds to 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Like, that's an improvement. So when you measure things, some things like that are very easy to measure. I think when you look at maybe measuring flexibility, pictures worth 1,000 words there, right? So it's like having somebody do, take a PVC pipe and press it back as far as they can, and if they're just beginning, maybe the bar's a few inches in front of a vertical plumb line.
Elbows are bent,
and maybe they have a really wide grip. And 6 months later, after some flexibility and mobility training, they have straight elbows, their hands are in a few inches closer, and they're the center of that bar is over the center of their spine, in the vertical position. Like, those are ways to measure that. So and if you get creative, you don't have to get that creative, but if you look, you can find tests and learn ways to measure and record these things. But when you measure these things and pay attention to them, there are infinite ways to progress. And this is where I always try to argue with people that say they get bored with training, and it's probably not that you're getting bored with training. It's just that you are probably doing the wrong kind of training. You're not training enough things, or not measuring enough things consistently and then retesting them, because you won't get bored with training if you're doing it correctly, or if you're working with the right coach, or if you're in the right gym. You'll get really excited that you're making progress everywhere. Like, when you get that feeling that when you go into the gym, you're like, oh man, what am I gonna get better at today? Instead of going to the gym and saying, get this stupid workout in. One of those situations is gonna stop.
Where are we trying to progress?
Yeah.
Because there's always somewhere.
Yes.
So I think the final question, some thought-provoking stuff, is where do you think you lack in the 10?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then maybe what are you doing to measure that, and what do you do to practice it? So yeah, if you guys have questions on anything from today, you can reach us on Facebook, Instagram, send us a message there, or message us at Mike at frictiongrandrapids.com or Bobby at frictiongrandrapids.com. This podcast was an idea from Jess, one of the members here. So we'd love to hear some suggestions on podcasts in the future, answer some questions, explore some topics.
Yeah.
It's more fun for us to answer your questions or give more info on something than it is for us to generate an idea on our own. And it helps people. So that's what we're about.
Yeah, if you have the question, 20 other people do.
Yeah. So you can also find us on YouTube, and you can find these podcasts on Buzzsprout. We just learned today that we're on Spotify.
We're on Spotify.
Wow, that's
it's
cool.
Official.
Yeah. Didn't take us very long. 10 episodes in, and they're like, yeah.
We gotta get these guys.
So, yeah, other than that, stay tuned. We'll talk more next week. We do have the Spooky Movie Night coming up this weekend at Friction. Trail cleanup next month, November 8th. Kettlebell course is been postponed, so it's not starting tonight. It's starting next week. That's 6 weeks of kettlebell training to work on some of that coordination, accuracy,
some of those skills,
and mobility is going to be a huge one for that. So you want to work on flexibility as well. And then costume workout, Halloween, 31st.
Bring a friend.
Bring a friend. We'll see you in the gym, and enjoy your day.
Later.
Fingerprints. In case you didn't know.